Hello there. Hi, it's Sonja again, and this is another one of our short videos regarding different topics in recovery. We're back on to life after rehab, and this week we've got the lovely Paul C from Norwich, who's going to answer some questions for us. So, firstly, Paul, I want to wish you happy birthday. Thank you for taking time out on your birthday to come and help us with these videos.
No,
Happy birthday.
No, thank you.
Also, so the first question, Paul, the kind of topics that we're trying to focus on to try and help other people coming into recovery would be, what happened to you when you came into rehab? Now, you're in long-term recovery, Paul, aren't you?
I suppose you could call it that. Yeah.
What was your last birthday you celebrated?
10
okay.
years.
So you're long-term sobriety. I think it makes all the difference, Paul. But
Right.
Can you explain to me what happened to you while you was in rehab? What was the difference?
What got me? So what got me there as such, and why I was willing to do something about it at that point?
Yes.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
I think the best way to say is I was done. I mean, I've heard lots of different blurbs and lots of people say lots of different things, but I was done. And what I mean by that, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. The old cliches. Do you know what I mean? I was more frightened of using than I was of not using. And
healthy fear.
And absolutely terrified of that, and terrified of myself. The terrorizing thinking that I used to suffer with at that stage when I first came into treatment. My thinking was abusive, to say the least. The things that were going on inside my head, and the levels of self-destruction that I suffered with mentally, and the torture I caused myself through my thinking were absolutely insane when I look back at it. Do you know what I mean? That's the truth of it.
That's the nature of addiction, isn't it? The problem centers in the mind, as it talks about in the big book.
Yeah.
So, Paul, I just wanted to say, I remember when you was in rehab. I remember being on shift one night. I hope you don't mind me saying.
No, go on.
I remember being on shift one night, and I remember looking at you. We was out in the deck, out in the back of one of the houses, and I remember looking at you, and I thought you was on the brink of madness. You was literally on the brink of insanity.
Yeah.
And it just really broke my heart. I think from then on, it just really made me care and really love you, Paul, and want to support your recovery. I think that's the right words I want to say.
I think saying the brink of psychosis. Do you know what I mean? And that stuff, and that's clean. Do you know what I mean? That was without a drug in me. And I don't use psychosis lightly. I mean, I was certainly suffering from a severe mental state. Do you know what I mean? There is no getting away from that point. I remember speaking to a fellow at a church group I used to go to, a church discussion group, and speaking to him about the nature of the mind and stuff. And I saying to him about what's more terrorizing to you, being on your own with your own thinking when it's going for you, or getting kicked in the head. And he went, well, your own thinking. And I'm like, getting kicked in the head's relief.
No, true.
And that was the state of the mind. That just shows the state of the mind I was in. That sort of stuff was truly a relief to me. That violence and all that stuff was a release.
Okay, thank you, Paul. So moving on from being in rehab and what got you to rehab, can you tell us about what happened when you left rehab? What did you do differently when you got home?
Well, as you know, I left rehab in a bit of a cloud of smoke, as in with a woman I probably shouldn't have been with at that time, which I wouldn't recommend, and it's one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. So to some degree, the rehab turned the back on me because of my own behaviour, which I absolutely, do you know what I mean, is what it is. But because of that, I had to throw myself into fellowship in a very, very strong fashion. And I had a house in Lowestoft, or a flat in Lowestoft on the beach, as you know, and I was loving the seaside, but because of my behaviour, I was going to meetings in Norwich, and I would catch the train 3 times a week to get to a meeting, an hour's journey to Norwich to get to a meeting. I'd scrounge a lift wherever I could. I had a fella pick me up and take me to Norwich, and we kicked about quite a lot, and we went to the gym and we hung out, and I got involved with people. I remember arriving in Norwich on the train on the first time, and that feeling of a member of the fellowship had actually taken his time out to come down to the train station to meet a little junkie like me. So I mean, to actually meet me and welcome me into the meetings, and that feeling of love and being welcomed and belonging that I was seeking all my life. And so I carried on going to meetings in that fashion. I'd get on the train and I'd do 2 meetings a day, 2 meetings a night, whatever I had to do to maintain what I was doing. Sponsorship, I got hold of a sponsor and I did what I needed to do. Yeah, and I went through the work again after going through it in treatment. I mean, treatment set me up with the great pieces of information and helped me. But until I was able to practice what I had learned in the real world, in function, in actuality, I mean, treatment gave me great boundaries to allow me to practice that. But when I was given my own freedom and my own self-will come back, it becomes a bit more real, doesn't it? So yeah.
Well, you get given it's about free will. You can people leave rehab and do what's suggested, or they leave and don't do what's suggested, and they pay the price. Either way. And I think that I couldn't speak for myself. I think we've all struggled in relationships, Paul. I think that all not just opposite sex relationships, but all relationships is a bit of a struggle. And I just think that the fact that you had the willingness to overcome, regardless of what went on, push that aside, because you can get clean despite what goes on.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I believe that if you put your relationship first, you're fucked. Yeah. If you put the 12 steps first, you can handle anything in recovery.
That's it.
And that's my opinion, and that's also my experience. I've been through a lot in recovery, and my relationships, my son, my work is all based on the 12 steps, and that's what comes first, and it's got to.
So, okay, Paul. So now, lastly, where are you at now in your life, from going into rehab, getting out of rehab, and then where are you at now 10 years later, Paul?
I'm going to cry. Do you know what I mean? That's the truth of it, because my life's amazing. I've got a little boy who's 8 who's never seen me use. I'm married to the lady I left treatment with. We got married a couple of years ago. I've had many holidays in recovery, and all that pales in insignificance compared to the peace and the freedom I feel. The non-judgmental stuff, as in how I used to judge myself, to the freedom I have of peace of mind today, is unbelievable. But some of the gifts, I've just bought a piece of land, so I've bought my own piece of wood. It's my birthday today. I've been in the jacuzzi this morning. You know what I mean? I'm on here doing this with you, and why would I be anywhere else? And then I'm going for a canoe in the river. I'm going to pick my boy up from school, and we're going to go down the land, and we'll go paddleboarding tonight. Have a barbecue in the woods, and come home. I mean, compared to where I was, that's just so different. And the greatest gift. There's a story I like to tell about the greatest gift that this recovery has given me. And it's about my little boy, really, and the ripple effect of this stuff just blows me away. So my little boy, a couple of years ago now, come home from school, and he had a courage sticker. And I said, Isaac, what did you get a courage sticker for? And he said, a bigger boy hit me, Daddy. And in my head, I went straight to, well, let's go and have a chat with his parents then, and we'll see how they feel about this, shall we? And that's where I was in my head. And I said, well, what did you do, Isaac? And he said, I gave him a hug, Daddy. And I said, pardon? And I said, then what did you do, Daddy? He goes, well, I went and told a teacher that he'd hit me after I gave him a hug. And I said, why did you do that, Isaac? And he said, because that's what you told me to do, Daddy. And that is what recovery's given me. My thinking can still be quite mental. My actions today are quite good. And the actions I've taken upon the actions that I've taken have led me to have a beautiful, peaceful life today. I think that's the best description I can give you.
It's amazing. And I want to ask you about your mum. How's your work? How's your mum?
My mum has always been tricky. My mum and my relationship is really, really difficult. I'd done a lot of damage to my mum, and my mum done a lot of damage to me, and we're both damaged individuals in that. And she chose, shall we say, not to walk the path that I'm walking. So she's still got her damage, and she hangs on to that damage. So our relationship is really hard. I've just been up to Newcastle to see her, 7-hour journey to go and see my mother. Bank holiday weekend, loved it. Right. But I went to the beach with my mum. I allowed my mum to play with my son. My mum allow my mum to look after my son. And my mum has phoned me this morning, and she sent me the most beautiful card this morning, because she still can't verbalise her feelings.
Yeah.
But she's told me in this card how proud she is of me, and that's something she can't verbalise. She still can't tell me she loves me. But what she's done today is amazing. Do you know what I mean? For movement for her in that respect is amazing. And work-wise, I had many jobs when I was doing what I was doing before. I used to get a job, work for about 6 months, and leave before they saw who I was, because I knew that I was going to get the sack. I'm currently in my 8th year of employment at the same job. I've got a really good relationship with my supervisor. My supervisor knows my whole story. He suggested I didn't tell it to the people higher up the chain. But he's a really nice fellow, and again, he comes to me. He's got disabled children. He's a scout leader. He comes to me for advice on stuff around his kids, around his wife, and he's a very spiritual man in his own right, and he still comes to me for advice. Do you know what I mean? And that stuff just blows my head off. And I suppose that leads into sponsorship and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Because that's the other greatest gift, especially during lockdown. Do you know what I mean? When we've been locked down and all that, my sponsees have seen me through. Do you know what I mean? I've got 5 or 6 blokes with a few years. Do you know what I mean? And I've had them a few years, and they've got a few years. And I mean, one come down and helped me build a shed yesterday down the land, just off the bat. And you know what I mean? Because of the times I've seen him through and the times he's seen me through. And those relationships are priceless.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, lovely, Paul. So I want to finish off with just saying, one, thank you for coming on your birthday. Congratulations for your decade of recovery.
Thank you.
And yeah, thank you very much, Paul. Honestly, I feel so chuffed to know you, and we don't speak from year to year.
Don't have to, Sonja.
Yeah, we don't have to. I really love you, Paul, and thank you for your time. And please send our love to Lucy.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm going to try and get Lucy on it as well, but don't tell her.
I'm working on it. It's a process.
Thank you very much, Paul. So anyone, if you've got any comments or questions, please ask in the comments box below. Thank you very much. See you soon, Paul.
Another day.
Thank you.